All right, what do you think about that intro? Hello and welcome to Retro Recon. What we're going to try to do here is go back in time, find some really cool stuff, and talk about it. My name is Chris Perry. If you don't know, some of you may know who I am, some of you may not, but my background is very interesting. I spent time in law enforcement in years, semi-retired to take care of my kids full-time, became a Mr. Mom. And then after that, I ended up being a history professor. So go figure. I've got some interesting takes on some historical things. I'm a Gen X guy, so I love things that have to do with that great generation that is Gen X. So the idea here is to sort of make it up as I go along. There's not really a rhyme or reason for any of this. It's just supposed to be fun. I have looked at podcasts and listened to them, and that's one thing I think is missing a lot is fun, and that's what we're going to try to do here. Different things we're going to talk about. The topics are endless. So, without any further ado, let's just get right into it. So, what I wanted to talk about to start with is a great topic of urban legends, right? We've all heard them, no matter where you're from, no matter, your background, the things that you have experienced in your life. At one time or another, you've run across something that can be considered an urban legend. It could be as simple as some of you may remember, Bloody Mary that you used to see in the mirror in elementary school. I remember doing this. You'd throw the water on the mirror and turn around 3 times. I hate you, Bloody Mary. I hate you, Bloody Mary. I hate you, Bloody Mary. That whole thing never did work, but people tried. But that's really what I want to get into. Now, I'm going to concentrate on some that were local to me, things that I experienced firsthand in some cases growing up and different things in the great state of Alabama. But I'm sure there are similar things, all over the world as far as that goes. But my interest in urban legends started very early with me. In the 70s, there was a great TV show called In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. And it really just got me. I remember seeing the one on Bigfoot, and it was so good. I mean, Leonard Nimoy had a way of really explaining things and actually communicating with the viewer in a way that not only scared the crap out of me, but also I was really interested and wanted to know more. And of course, I started seeing Bigfoot everywhere after that, sort of. I never forget, there was in the streets I grew up on, Bessie Avenue, shout out to Bessie Avenue. There was what appeared to be a dent, I guess, in the blacktop. Looked sort of like a footprint, but I was convinced that was definitely Bigfoot's footprint. Also, right down the street, or right through the woods, I should say, there was kind of a marshy area we used to call the swamp. There were rumors that came up that we were definitely in the midst of alligators there. There were alligators that lived in that swamp. I remember getting on it was kind of like a pallet, so it was a bad idea to start with, and floating out into the middle of this thing, because if you know what a pallet looks like, you would know why this is a bad idea, because it's going to sink. Anyway, so we went out in the middle of this thing looking for the alligator. There wasn't any alligators. I'm not sure what kind of water this was. It was pretty nasty, but anyway. So let's get right into it. One of the first urban legends that I want to get into is called Acid Wall. Now, this is the story behind Acid Wall is an urban legend, right? But as a historian, someone who looks at history and studies it and everything, there's not a lot of evidence to understand what this place was. But I will tell you this, it exists. I've been there many, many times. I have viewed Acid Wall. We used to go riding around in this area in Roebuck, it's in Birmingham, and we would end up there and, hang out at the wall. It's a strange thing, but this is what it is. So Acid Wall, the story behind it was that some guy had taken copious amounts of acid. I don't know. I think the rumor was like 27 hits of acid or something crazy. And he just went, crazy, just, psychotic. And in doing so, for whatever reason, I don't know if he was a maintenance guy. There was a school there, I believe. And he just started to build a wall. Right. So this wall that this guy built, it is insane as this sounds. The wall that he built was in all kind of weird directions and shapes, and it was just insane. Right. So the thought being that because he was so, wasted on, LSD, that he could do these strange shapes and everything, and he's tripping so hard that this is what was going to come out of it. Now, then the story went that he like died or had a standoff with the police, and there's other, random stories that would say that it was the kids at this school that took the acid, and they're the ones that built this wall. But what is true is that the wall is there, or was. I'm not 100% sure if it's still there today. You can't really find, there are a few things online, and I haven't been out there in years, but it's going toward East Lake Park is where it's at. It's, if you know the Birmingham area, it's out in Roebuck, going toward Center Point, Huffman area. And it's like you cut down, I think it's First Avenue North, somewhere in there, and you go like you're going to East Lake Park. If you know anything about East Lake Park, we used to ride around in circles at East Lake Park back in the day. It was a lot of fun. But this wall is sitting there, and you can see it. You can go right up on this wall. You can literally look at it and see the weird directions and shapes that it takes. So the question always was, well, how did this happen? How did the story start? And there's not a lot of evidence out there. I know everyone has a different story about it, but the wall itself is definitely there, or was. Again, I'll have to go back out and check back with you to see if it's still there, because I have no idea if it is or not. But that is the idea behind it. But it's one of those things that you had to go see, or at least if you were bored riding around or whatever, you go see this wall, and then you ask yourself the question, well, how did they build it? And I wish I had a picture of it, because if I did, you would see what I was talking about. But a lot of you may have heard of this before, but it was one of those things we used to go see. Now, again, not a lot of evidence out there for it. The wall exists. Why somebody built it, who knows? Whether it had anything to do with some guy who just went crazy on acid, again, who knows? But it's sort of half and half. As far as acid wall goes, as far as, is this true as an urban legend, or is it false? I think that you have to stay somewhere in the middle on that one, because yes, the wall was there. Definitely. I saw it. Now, did the events happen that the story goes behind? I don't know. Similar one would be the haunted church near the Hellhole in Gardendale, Alabama. That was one that was an urban legend. People believe the whole is Sulphur Springs or Sylvan. I think it's Sulphur Springs cemetery that was there, and it was entirely haunted. The whole thing, right? And you would go there, and the idea was that you had this area, right, that you would go around 3 times and then shine your light, and you would see this old church that used to be there. Rumor was they were Satanists or something, and got run off by the locals, or burned the church down, or there are people that died in there. I don't know. Again, that one never worked either. I tried. There were supposed to be glowing tombstones out there. All kind of really interesting stuff. But the thing about a lot of these is you can't really find much evidence behind them. Now, I will say there is one that is very interesting, and it is the East Lake Mermaid. Have you ever heard of this? I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. I mentioned East Lake earlier. So looking at this, so what is the East Lake Mermaid? Well, this is actually based on an actual event, right? There were murders in East Lake way back in the 19th century. The Halls murders was the name of the people. So the idea is this guy Richard Halls. His wife, what he was actually working out of town is how the story goes, and he left them a lot, and his wife took up to drinking and got a little wild and crazy, and maybe had her somebody on the side, or it goes on and on. But the bottom line was that this guy was absolutely insane, and he killed his wife and his daughter. Now, the son, I believe, they had a son as well. He was not at home at the time, but he wanted to get rid of him so he can get married again. So, as the story goes, he killed his wife, his daughter, and then he dropped them, weighted them down, and put them into where East Lake is now. It was called something different back then, but where East Lake is, that water that's there, literally sunk them to the bottom of the lake, and that's where they were. So this is where the origin of the East Lake Mermaid comes, because allegedly it took them a couple of days to find the victims. Right, they knew they were gone. People wondered what was going on. There was like a lady that was local in the neighborhood that had seen a lot of things that were suspicious. So they had been looking for this Richard guy who had went to Columbus, Mississippi, and married another woman in the meantime, which is, they caught him on the bus back, or train. It wasn't a bus, it was a train. They caught him on a train back going from Columbus, Mississippi, through Birmingham to Atlanta is where he was going. And they caught him, they threw him in jail, the whole 9 yards, right? But so this begins this entire story about, well, what happened regarding this East Lake Mermaid, this whole idea, right? So there you go. That was actually based in truth. Now, whether or not there's really a ghost at East Lake, no idea. I hadn't been out there in many years. We used to go a lot, but we don't. Now I'm old and I don't go cruising around the lake anymore. But we used to. And I'd heard, whispers of it here and there, but that one actually is probably at least based in reality. So in looking at, this one, the story itself is true, and how they got to the East Lake Mermaid is true. Now, I guess you have to suspend disbelief, or do you believe in ghosts, or all that good stuff, to figure out, well, is this a actual event that happened? I don't know. I think that's up to you, each one. Now, all right. So there's another one that I wanted to get into, because I'd started this whole thing with the idea of Bigfoot. Right. There is a pretty cool story out there that I'll get into in just a second. I wanted to do a noise like we were going to take a break or something. Okay. That didn't work. Okay, this is brand new. I'm making this up as I go along. So the idea of the Kohlberg Monster, right? Now, you may have heard of the Kohlberg Monster, you may not. But the Kohlberg Monster was a Bigfoot type creature. My brother swore up and down that he saw this thing, and actually saw a footprint. My brother Frankie, who is no longer with us, but he swore up and down that this was something that he saw, right? Now, did he see this? I don't know, but he did. Now, I'll say my brother tended to tip back a few Budweisers, so I don't know. Did he actually see this? I don't know. I think a more likely story with him, I know that, since he's no longer with us, I guess I could tell this story. He did go through Colberg, which is where we're talking about, in an old S10 pickup truck with, let's say, some illegal substances in the back of the bed, covered up with the tarp. Well, I mean, it's not. It's legal in some states now, so it would be marijuana. So he had this in the back of a truck. I don't know where he got it from, but it was in the back of a truck, and it was a lot of it, undoubtedly. No clue. And the tarp came off, and it started going everywhere, flying all over the road. So anyway, he got lucky. They were out in the middle of the road trying to get this back into the truck. So he did have that happen. Also, once he called me up, I'll never forget it. It's back when I was in law enforcement. He calls me up and he says, "Man, I got an ostrich running through my yard." And I said, "An ostrich?" He said, "Yeah, ostrich." I'm gonna go get it. And I'm like, number one, I doubt very seriously it's an ostrich. But I thought he may have, tipped a few back that day. But he was convinced, and he went to chase this thing. And undoubtedly, what it was, as you can probably imagine, it was an emu that had escaped from an emu farm or whatever. Which I think people eat those things. I don't know, but that was the idea behind that. So, but the back to the Kohlberg Monster now. So, does this exist? Now, Bigfoot is it's an interesting thing because, I mean, who doesn't believe there's a hairy man beast running free through North America, right? Everybody should, believe that a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know. I think that it is maybe possible. Who knows? I mean, they didn't find like the silverback gorilla until what, the early 20th century or something like that. Now, any of you anthropologists or zoologists, you can correct me on that, but I think that's right. Somewhere in there. So it's not terribly long ago. So could there be something out there? I mean, they're finding things all the time. I don't know. Let me know though if any of you have been experienced the old Kohlberg Monster. Now I will say this: I've seen some strange things in Colberg at different times. A lot of we used to get. It was interesting back when I used to work for Fulton Hill Police Department. We used to get calls in Colberg, which technically part of it was in the county and part of it was in Birmingham. So we weren't supposed to go down there, but I knew a lot of people that lived down there, so I would go. And you get in some mess if you weren't careful. Of course, you're out of your jurisdiction, but there was some interesting goings on. There used to be like little ponds everywhere. We used to go fishing, and I'll never forget. It always reminds me of The Simpsons, that episode where they what is it when right there by the nuclear plant, they're catching like three-eyed fish, which I caught a fish or two in an old pond. I couldn't get back to it now if I tried, but it was they were an odd color. They were really a weird green, which we think, oh, they had like moss or some kind of algae on them. I don't know. This stuff was like glowing. So I don't know what we were into. A lot of those are strip pits, so they had different, mining operations and things down there. So, who knows? It's one of those things. But when you get into this, there's a lot of interesting things that are going on. So Kohlberg Monster could be real, maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of fun to think about one way or the other, right? I don't know. Could be. So there are a lot of urban legends in the area. There's a lot of urban legends all over the world. My wife is from Wisconsin, and up in Wisconsin, there's what they call the Hoedag, which is some kind of chupacabra Bigfoot creature thing that will get you somehow or another. Also, she went to school for a while in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which has the Mothman up there that comes down from the bluffs and will get you. So there's all kinds of stuff that you have going on there. But so this is my first test at a podcast. I may add some stuff to this, but we'll see where it goes. That was fun. Okay. All right. So let me. Okay. Thank you for listening. This is Chris Perry signing off. God bless America.